The Detroit Lions get a bombshell announcement that Frank Ragnow has decided to come out of retirement on the last day possible that he could have made that decision. Just 15 minutes before what I assume to be the 4 o'clock deadline, we got news that Frank Ragnow had unretired. I just want to say thank you to everybody that blew up my phone. I felt like an insider. It really did make me feel special. I was actually out picking up some stuff for my wife, and my phone, I see the news from Adam Schefter, and then my phone is ringing. My text messages are going off. My Twitter feed is just ringing off the hook. I appreciate you guys so much. But you've heard the news by now that Frank Ragnow is officially back. And the Detroit Lions, I didn't know what time we were going to get these moves, but they have announced their roster moves. And buckle up, because it is a long one. We've got to actually scroll down quite a bit. I actually waited until the halftime of the Pistons game. Right now, they're leading 58-57 over the Boston Celtics. I wanted to make sure I gave them my attention and then give it to the Detroit Lions during halftime. So I waited until halftime. Here are the Detroit Lions roster moves. Quite a bit. The news had already come out that the Lions announced roster moves. They have waived running back Craig Reynolds, and we'll talk about each of these moves. We have activated defensive end Marcus Davenport from reserve injured. We have also activated offensive lineman Miles Frazier from reserve PUP. We have signed tight end Anthony Fursker and wide receiver, the legend Tom Kennedy, to the active roster from the practice squad. Not an elevation, but a signing. So they take a spot on the active roster. We elevated Kingsley and tight end Zach Horton from the practice squad to the active inactive list. And the man, the myth, the legend, they reinstated offensive lineman Frank Ragnow from reserve retired, had been placed on exempt commissioner permission list. Now, what this means is that Frank Ragnow is back. And I was wondering what the corresponding moves were going to be. But it looks like the corresponding move to Craig Reynolds was Frank Ragnow. Like, Frank Ragnow took the place of Craig Reynolds, and we'll go over Craig's stats in a minute. He has to clear through waivers to potentially come back to the Detroit Lions. We activated Marcus Davenport, of course, and that is because, remember, we wind up waiving 3 people yesterday. We elevated Miles Frazier from the reserve list. So we got Marcus Davenport. I feel like yesterday we waived 3 and then we brought 1 back. Right. So Marcus Davenport and Miles, they replace the 2 we waived yesterday. No, we waived 3 yesterday. It's a lot of stuff going on. But regardless, Frank Ragnow is back for the Detroit Lions. And I'm very excited about that. I'm very, very excited about that because now things change a little bit. And we talked about this in the live stream. Was this pressure? Brett, this was not an overnight thing. Now, Frank waited to the last minute. Week 13 is the last time, or the end. It is the deadline for when a player can return. And because the Lions play tomorrow, Frank had to make a decision today. For if you play for the Eagles or Bears, you have to make a decision tomorrow. If you play on Sunday, you have to make a decision after Saturday. So if Zadarius Smith was to come out of retirement, I forgot he was under contract with the Eagles. Which I did start to think, like, what if he did? But then I thought, oh, wait a minute. Somebody reminded me, he's actually signed to the Eagles. I'm like, I forgot all about that because I got super excited. I was like, maybe this will bring Zadarius out of retirement, but he doesn't belong to us anymore. But Zadarius would have until Saturday. No, he would have until tomorrow to make his decision if he wanted to come out of retirement this season. Now, first, let's take a look at Craig Reynolds. Craig, I'm wondering if this is the end of the road for him when it comes to Detroit. I think he's going to probably come back. I think you're going to see a cycle of Tom Kennedy get waived, and we always see it happen. After this game, he'll probably get waived. Let's not sleep on Tom Kennedy either. And I think Tom Kennedy, this is because of the injury to Khalif. So expect him to make a few catches, man. He probably is going to be out there. But when it comes to Craig, not much. I mean, he had 3 carries all season. He has 3 carries for 4 yards, and it came in our blowout win against the Chicago Bears in week 2. I feel like that he's been dealing with quite a bit injury-wise, but I wonder if I fully expect him to be back. But next year, I'm wondering what would that mean for next year as far as Craig Reynolds returning to the Detroit Lions. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself, okay? I don't want to do that, but somebody brought up something during the live stream that I thought was very interesting. Now, Frank Ragnow just had a newborn kid, and so he's got a baby at home. And I'm wondering what brought him back. Was there's no doubt that Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, I mean, he might have got a call from Jared Goff, like some people. I thought Frank was done. Somebody had mentioned it in the comment section. I'm like, there's no way. He just had a baby. There's no way. But I'm wondering about the discussion that went on to help bring Frank Ragnow back out of retirement. And you know that he's been thinking about this for a while. Now, if you haven't heard, according to Ian Rappaport, I think it was Ian or Adam, said that the likeliness of Frank playing tomorrow is he's not going to play Thursday. Okay, that is not, but he is on the active roster, but he's not going to play Thursday. So expect him to be part of that inactive list. Okay, fast forward to next Thursday. There is a possibility that he will play next Thursday, the 4th, against the Cowboys. That is also unlikely, but a possibility. But what is more likely, best in my opinion, the actual scenario is that he is going to play against the LA Rams on the 14th. We'll give him 18 days to get acclimated with the Detroit Lions' current everything. So get back in, I'm not going to say football shape, you know what I mean? Because he's probably already kept himself up, but get acclimated with the team, the play calls, all of that stuff, run through a couple practices and things of that nature. So I don't think that we'll see him before the 14th, to be honest. And a lot could happen in that. The Detroit Lions could be 9-4. They could be 7-6, going to play the LA Rams to save their season. So Frank Ragnow coming out of retirement is a big deal for the Detroit Lions. It really does mean a ton. And this is going to help whatever Super Bowl aspirations we had left. We still got to get we got to get some pressure on the D-line. Speaking of pressure on the D-line, Marcus Davenport is back, and we'll touch on him in a minute. But where I was going with the Frank Ragnow situation is I don't want to get ahead of myself. But if we look at, somebody brought this up during the comment, during the live stream, that Frank Ragnow, it's funny because he actually retired when the Detroit Lions had a potential out. But Frank Ragnow, just like that, Spot Track has updated. He is under contract, so however prorated that they pay him or whatever the situation. Now, to my knowledge, I have not heard of any type of contract changes since he's been reinstated in the NFL, but he is under contract for next season. And I don't want to get excited, and I definitely don't want to get ahead of myself or things like that. But this is worth mentioning that Frank Ragnow is under contract for next season. And assuming that he still has that love and that passion that he had, that he had to bring him back to the game, is it possible that he could stay another year? And I'm just thinking of either way, it's a win for this team. That is a colossal win for the Detroit Lions, because now not only does it bring back the staples of Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker anchoring the sides, but it puts Frank, who is Frank was a super valuable piece, probably the most important. I know Taylor has his blind side, but Frank Ragnow was the most important piece. I mean, pointing out coverages, all of that stuff, right? And even though he is not familiar with this offense this year, as far as the play calling and such, I'm sure he can get it in no time. This is a big deal, but I'm thinking, hey, depending on what happens this season, depending on what these next 6 games, how his body feels, how's that toe feel, right? How this team finishes. What is the passion there? Could we see Frank heading into next year, and what that would mean for Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker? Maybe we don't get rid of Taylor Decker. There's no doubt that the team and the offensive line in particular are going to have a huge morale boost. I mean, not only Frank, but Miles Frazier being able to play as well. So, I mean, this is game-changing, and I'm not even trying to feed you any stuff, man. Like, this is game-changing for this team. Frank Ragnow coming back is game-changing. Might take him a little games to get his feet underneath him, but after that, game-changing. Like, he's that much of a difference maker that we could start talking Super Bowl. Now, you know what that means, right? That means that we need a pass rush. And if Frank Ragnow comes back and plays to the level that he was playing to before, then it will be about the pass rush. 100%. Speaking of pass rush, Marcus Davenport, you guys saw, is off the list. That means we will see him on Thanksgiving. I will say this, I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him because if you were going to come back and you were ready to come back, you bring your butt back during this game. Not only did they whip you the first time and you didn't sack the quarterback, you have been missing. You have not played in the month of November in 3 seasons. This is how you show your worth. You don't wait. You don't wait until the Dallas Cowboy game. You come back against you get your get back. I said it last night. Get your get back, bruh. But the story of the day is Frank Ragnow being back as a Detroit Lion. He will be playing for, in my estimation, the remaining 4 games of the season and whatever playoff positioning we have, whatever playoff games. So this is an opportunity you can't waste if you're the Detroit Lions. Give Frank all the time we need. We look, we really gonna need him down the stretch. Here's the deal. Lions play the Packers, huge game. Then we play the Dallas Cowboys, big game. Then we play the LA Rams, probably one of the biggest games of the season. But after all that is done, we got the Steelers, the Minnesota Vikings, and what may come down to the loser of the Chicago Bears-Detroit Lions game not even being in the NFL playoffs. Wrap your head around that, because that's insane. But this is a big deal for the Detroit Lions. I am excited. Disappointed about Craig. I don't see him being claimed off waivers. I mean, Quandre Diggs, better players have cleared waivers. So expect Craig Reynolds to be back. I just don't know if he will be here next year. I think his time with the Detroit Lions has pretty much, after this season, come to an end. So we shall see. But again, don't want to get ahead of myself, but is it possible that depending on how the season goes, since Frank is already under contract, you just go ahead and tough it out, bro? Imagine, and that's what I was going to say also. Imagine Tate, the learning that these guys, these rookies, these kind of second, third year players can really, Frank could take Tate under his wing and be like, look, let me show you some things. This is outstanding. Like, my excitement, this fan base, shout out to the person in the comment section that said we needed this, like this energized the fan base, because you could feel, man, something was different. The air was different. And this gave us a spark, man. Now all we got to do is beat the Packers, watch them Bears get handled by the Eagles, hopefully. And we are just like that, man. We're back in this thing. And then it'll all come down to can the Detroit Lions get to the quarterback? Can they get to the quarterback? Frank Ragnow being back is so big of a deal that we could start talking Super Bowl. If Frank plays the way that we've seen him play before, we could start talking Super Bowl if the Detroit Lions can find a way to get to the quarterback. Think about this. David Montgomery barely being used. Jamison Williams, number 2 wide receiver, but goes missing sometimes. Not his fault, right? But he goes missing. And we don't really have a third wide receiver. We get those 3 things done. Get to the quarterback. Our offensive line is fixed. And a third wide receiver and get to the quarterback, we done. That, like, we could talk Super Bowl. And I'll say this for all my Brad Holmes slappies and the guys that think I just can't stand the man. I actually gave him credit today. I said maybe he was behind getting Frank back. Maybe he had a lot to do with it. Maybe he was on the phone. Maybe he understands and this is the credit that I gave him. That maybe he understands that everything, that we are not good and that we need that extra oomph to take us over the hump. And maybe he does feel like, he feels a little bit of a seat warmer, and not necessarily by Sheila, but because you didn't make a move at the trade deadline, because we can't get to the quarterback outside of Aiden Hutchinson, so maybe Brad did feel those things. So you know what? I'll give him a little bit of credit. I don't know if this happened, if it went like I said, but you know what? I'm always dumping on him. I'll praise him. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but to make all the slappies feel better. And honestly, I believe that. I believe that he did. So but it does tell me that, like, could you imagine if, let's say, Frank Ragnow was not retired? Could you imagine if a team traded for Frank Ragnow. That's the effect that Frank Ragnow has on the team. So him coming back, to me, has that same effect. It's just a matter of football shape. That is it. That's how much of a game changer, a center, our center, Frank Ragnow is. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Get ready. Get a good night's sleep because we cracking it. Tailgate, 11 a.m. I set my alarm. I promise I won't miss it this time. Game, I'm working on the sound, trying to get that sound. It will be fixed. I'm gonna be up all night if I have to get this sound fixed, man, for the game tomorrow. That means the post-game show will go off without a hitch, and then we get to sit back and watch the Dallas Cowboys play the Kansas City Chiefs and what they think is going to be the most viewed game in NFL history during the regular season. Crazy. This channel is made possible by viewers, subscribers, and members just like you. It's because of your support I get to do what I do. You could be anywhere else on YouTube, but you choose to rock with me. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, consider subscribing. Consider subscribing. We're a couple subscribers away from a number change of 31.7 with the goal of getting to 32,000 by the end of the football season. And I'll give you a little clue about the changes that YouTube is making. I'll just put it like this. If you haven't considered subscribing before, you might consider hitting that subscription button and staying subscribed. All right? You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions. Welcome back, Frank Ragnow. You know what they're calling it? Franksgiving. So I guess in that case, happy Franksgiving, everyone.